Following its declaration of independence, Ukraine surrendered the nuclear weapons that the Soviet Union has installed on its territory. In exchange, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States promised its security. Russia has threatened Ukraine with a nuclear assault in the recent past. So, what led to these events? The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated at a conference on disarmament in Geneva, which he could only attend virtually due to the restrictions on airspace, on March 1st that the threat that Volodymyr Zelensky regime in Ukraine poses to neighboring countries and international security in general has increased significantly since the Kiev authorities began playing dangerous games involving plans to obtain their own nuclear weapons. From the beginning, Russia has attempted to legitimize its invasion of Ukraine by claiming that its smaller neighbor to the west posed a nuclear danger to the country. Ukraine possesses Soviet nuclear technology and the methods of delivering these weapons. Lavrov stated at the press conference, adding it was important to take irresponsible claims seriously. He also stated that Russia is a responsible member of international community and it is dedicated to its non-proliferation vow as well as taking every necessary precaution to prevent the establishment of nuclear weapons and associated technologies in Ukraine. The nuclear issue is playing out quite differently in Ukraine than it is elsewhere. Ukraine has totally denuclearized between 1996 to 2001 in accordance with an international agreement and under the supervision of Russia and United States. Now that Russian soldiers has infiltrated Ukraine borders, many Ukrainians are questioning if it was a mistake to denuclearize and whether having nuclear weapons could have been more effective in deterring Russia's agonists into their own nation. As previously stated, this is predicted on debatably correctly underlying premise that countries that possess nuclear weapons rarely go to the war with another one. Deterred by the specter of mutually asserted annihilation, Ukraine's decision to give up nuclear weapons came after 3 years of national deliberation and consultations, with the United States and Russia, as well as substantial security assurances from the three founding members of the Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT), the United States, Russia, and the United Kingdom, as well as France and China. This was supported by NATO's assurance that it would not expand order to allay Russia's worries. At that time, when India and Pakistan were developing nuclear weapons and the AQ-Khan proliferation network was putting Pakistan at the center of the issue, Ukraine was held up as a model of non-proliferation and example of ideal NPT member. At the end of Cold War, Ukraine's choice following the collapse of the Berlin Wall in 1918, Ukraine began the process of gaining independence from the Soviet Union, which was in the process of disintegrating. Its 1990 declaration of sovereignty, which was adopted a year before Soviet Union dissolution, had an unambiguous political declaration that it was wished to be nuclear weapons free and a non-nuclear country. The Ukrainian Republic, one of the former Soviet 15 republics, was barely recovering from the Chernobyl nuclear power plant tragedy at the time 1986. Moscow was in command and control of nuclear weapons deployed on Ukrainian soil at the time. The Ukrainian authorities at the time were concerned that it might result in the constraint on their personal freedom. However, with the disintegration of Soviet Union, the sentiment in Ukraine began to shift. As a result, it believes that giving up nuclear weapons will no longer be required for its survival. Ukraine possessed 176 intercontinental ballistic missiles at that time, 130 of which were liquid-fueled SS-19s and 46 of which were solid-fueled SS-24s. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, in addition to it, it possessed 44 strategic bombers equipped with cruise missiles. It has possessed roughly 2,000 nuclear warheads in stock as well as 2,600 tactical nuclear weapons according to the SUEA. The assurances of 1994 in the Budapest Memorandum on Security Assurances, which was signed on 5th December 1994, confirmed Ukraine's participation in Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT) and its position as a non-nuclear power in exchange for security guarantees. The President of Ukraine, Leonid Kuchma, the United States Bill Clinton, Russia's Boris Yeltsin, and the Prime Minister of United Kingdom Theresa May all signed the document. John Major. Later, China and France, both of which joined the NPT in 1992, joined the list of signatories. In 1992, the Lisbon Protocol made Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan participants to the first Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, START 1, which was signed by United States and Soviet Union in 1991 and aimed to reduce the number of nuclear weapons in each country's arsenal, respect the independence and sovereignty of Ukraine, as well as existing borders of Ukraine. According to the Budapest document, which also stated that powers has an obligation to refrain from the threat or use of political force or territorial integrity or political independence or freedom, also included in the agreement was a promise that they would not use their weapons against Ukraine unless necessary for self-defense or in the conformity with the United Nations Charter. The countries also stated that if Ukraine were threatened or attacked with the nuclear weapons, they would demand prompt UNSC action to give support to Ukraine and they would assist to discuss if such chaos happened. It has been pointed out, however, that this as an assurance rather than security guarantee in this case. Ukraine achieved a political win by implicitly acknowledging that it was the owner of nuclear weapons located on its territory after signing the Budapest Memorandum in 1992. Ukraine gave over all of its nuclear weapons it possessed to Russia in 1996. Less than 2 years after the agreement, a number of several deals were struck by Ukraine and Russia repaid its neighbor without payout of one of the $1 billion, while the United States paid a substantial sum to purchase Ukrainian stockpile of enriched uranium. Despite the fact Ukraine continued to be concerned that Russia was not completely reconciled to the new international line, the agreement remained in place for more than 2 decades, even as Russia raised reservations about NATO's growth. At the Munich Security Conference in 2007, Vladimir Putin, who took over the president from the Boris Yeltsin at the end of the 1999, expressed his concerns for the first time, accusing NATO of pushing the envelope to include former Soviet satellites and lightning into the United States, accusing that it is considering itself above international law and accusing it of igniting a new arms race through its unilateral actions. In addition, keeping the weapons would imply that Ukraine would be a nuclear state, that it is not signatory of a NPT. The P5 nations must be a non-nuclear states, and any additional signatories must either be non-nuclear states or have given up nuclear weapons. Russia and Ukraine, both of which aspire to be the part of Europe, did not want to begin their new path with the sanction and isolation from the rest of the world. From annexation of Crimea to invention of Ukraine. The annexation of Crimea by Russia in 2014 was a blatant violation of Budapest Agreement, and it served as the first major test for Russia's ability to provide security guarantee to Ukraine, and Russian President Vladimir Putin did not engage into negotiation despite being a signatory to agreement and vetoed a resolution against the annexation at the United Nations Security Council. Russia was subjected to certain penalties by United States, but Europe continued to conduct business with him. In the United States Congress, a debate in the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations in 2016 emphasized that the escalatory charter of United States and the Russia response to one another at the time. Victoria Nuland, Assistant Secretary in the State Department Bureau of the Europe and Eurasian Affairs, spoke into the great length of the efforts in the United States and take response in response to Russian aggression. The United States have pledged more than $600 million in security aid to Ukraine in order to assist it in better monitoring and securing its borders, deploying its forces more securely and efficiently, and defending its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Our training program have resulted in training of approximately 1700 Ukrainian conventional military and National Guard troops as well as 120 special operations forces. We have delivered counter artillery and counter motor radars, over 3000 secure radios, over 100 armored civilian SUVs, and hundreds of medical kits to Ukrainian forces in order to assist them in effectively resisting advances and saving lives on the battlefield. For the last 2 years, the United States and its NATO partners have maintained a steady rotating military presence on land, at the sea, and in all along NATO eastern flank, including the Baltic states, Poland, Romania, and Bulgaria. Looking ahead of the NATO summit in Warsaw in July, allies with the institutionalize a more continuous strategy to deterrence notably by increasing forward presence in the east to minimize the reaction times in the event of aggression act. Specifically, each piece of this reaction, according to the President Putin, was designed to surround Russia and hence pose a danger to its sovereignty and security. The words made by President Zelensky about equipping his nation with nuclear weapons crossed a red line. According to Senator Andrei A. Klymov, chairman of Foreign Affairs Committee of the ruling United Russia Party, in an interview with the Indian Express published last week, Putin has now placed Russia's nuclear forces on high special alert, justifying the action as a response to aggressive words made by United States and other Western countries. Even Russia, which took a part in drills on Tuesday with Russia's nuclear submarines, would be hoping that Putin would refrain from going so far as to use nuclear weapons himself. Thank you very much for watching till the end. For more updates, please subscribe to our channel.